Hey there. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of The Charging Station. This is just a midweek opportunity for us to provide some encouragement for you. I am super excited because we're starting a new segment called Christmas Reflections, and I get to do it with the First Lady. I can't believe that this is the first time that you've been on this setup.
No, I mean, you would think I've been invited by now.
Well, we want to make sure we don't want to end this year without you getting on here. So you're going to get to hear some reflections from the First Lady and I, and it's going to be a good time. I'm going to go ahead and get spiritual out the gate because I don't know if we're going to stay spiritual or not as we go through this. But here it is. I want to give you this passage. It's actually in 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 15 says, "Thank God for this gift, too wonderful for words." When I think about this Christmas season, it is the gift of Jesus in providing salvation for us that really is too marvelous for words, indescribable, actually. And so I do appreciate you being with us. Thank you for being part of this. And let's get started. Now, what I want to do is I want to you to tell a reflection from your childhood, and then I'll do the same. So you want to start? You want me to start?
You, me, you.
Okay, let's fight it out. You ready?
Okay. I think I win.
Okay, so I'm going first. So all right, come on, let's go with this. Tell me what you want. What you want to know?
So I get to ask you any question live.
Any question live that has to do with Christmas?
So I guess 28 years. You should remember all of those.
Oh
But
yeah, I got that.
beyond that, what was Christmas like for you in the Harris household?
Growing up, um, Christmas was all. My mom was one of those that was all up in the holidays. So we had decorations out for everything, and so that's what we really went back to. I can tell you that my entire life, up until us, of course, we went to the same places. We was always Christmas Eve at my mom's, and then it was always Christmas Day at my dad's parents. And so that's just the way that it was for us. That's the way that we did Christmas, and we did it big. We did do Santa Claus. That was a huge part of our upbringing, and so I tried to stick with that as long as I could.
I just need to know, did Gwen use tinsel?
Oh, she had the tree all decked out, and that's actually one of our traditions. That's one of the things that we did. We always put the Christmas tree up together as a family, all four of us. And during that time, we always had hot chocolate, and in the hot chocolate was always the marshmallows. And we listened to Christmas music. It was probably Bing Crosby, something like that, White Christmas. We listened to all the time, and it didn't matter if it was 80 degrees outside. You having hot chocolate, and you putting the Christmas tree up,
Yes.
and you didn't have to like it,
Mm-mm. Yeah.
but you had to do it.
Yeah.
So I can remember as a teenager me and being a little hot with it, but it didn't matter because mom was like, "You gonna put this tree up?"
I could see that, Gwen. I could see. I mean, she was the one that had poems for everybody. What at Valentine's
Valentine's
Day,
Day
everything.
poems, all of
So I
that.
could see that around that house.
Now, but when it came to
Mhm.
Christmas morning was special because we did it together, and I know this is hard to believe, but it was all organized when it came to opening up gifts. So it wasn't just going in and finding all these gifts underneath the tree and just ripping into them and tearing. No, it was just one at a time. And I know that's hard for the people to believe, and maybe even you too, because the OCD thing. We
Yeah,
were very
no,
structured. My
no.
mom made sure of that. So.
I know where you get it from. Now, whenever you received gifts,
Uh-huh.
like how did that go? Did everybody was it a surprise on Christmas morning?
Yeah, always a surprise, and it was one by one. So I would open up one, Carla would open up one. We would do something like that together, and so we're working through that. And it was always that way. And and mom and dad, I guess for as long as I can remember, we yeah, I don't even know if I really got too many Christmas presents from them, and it was always from somebody else. And I'm being careful about that because I don't know about the
Exactly.
audience, but we played that game up real big.
Yeah.
Had a good time with it.
So what was your fondest, your favorite Christmas morning before me? I mean, I would have to say.
Well, I I can remember the gifts. Let me because I think that's what you're wanting to know is my favorite Christmas gifts. Um, Several of them come in because we would always have um, Christmas Eve at my grandmother's that I mentioned earlier, and part of that was us always doing the Christmas story. So my mom was one of five siblings, and one year they went in and surprised my grandparents by telling the Christmas story from Luke chapter 2 and singing a song. So they did the whole play. They got the robes out, the towels out. They did that, and then when the grandchildren started coming around, we did that. So we made sure that we picked that up, and so we continued that. And I can remember we didn't live very far in Camden County from where at the time where my grandparents were to our house. But I was so super excited. And I can remember being in those pajamas, you know, the ones with the footy things in the middle of them. Probably you can't wear them now because they'd caught on fire back then, but it was bad. But anyway, and I would beg mama, I got to have something to go to sleep. So just don't judge. Just don't judge with this. But mama would give me something with some coating in it to try to knock me out so I could get some rest because I was just super, super, super excited. And then Christmas morning, one Christmas that's standing out right now is I got a train track. And I can remember my dad, and he must have put it together for me. And it was a big deal on a big old sheet of plywood. Um, I remember getting a bicycle one year that was had the number 7 on it because that was my favorite number, and loved that. And then probably a basketball goal. That was big time when you got a basketball goal.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah.
that's some of my fondest Christmas gifts and things that I had.
So I do have a question. So when Carla, what's the difference between you and Carla?
6.5 years.
6.5 years. What would be your fondest memory of? Do you remember her first Christmas? Do you remember that far back?
I remember, I remember because Carla was born in December.
Mhm.
And so I can remember that day like it was yesterday because she came home from the hospital and she had to stay. She was born on December the 2nd, and she had to stay extra because she had some stuff going on at the hospital. And when she came home, I remember running off the school bus and seeing her and looking at her for the first time. And I can remember saying, "Mama, I think she's looking at me." And so yeah, so right around that time was Christmas. Wasn't long after that, so
Which made it an exciting
it
Christmas.
was a
That
very
Christmas
exciting
had
Christmas.
to be excited
Yep.
to have a baby sister.
Yep.
So what would you
I
say?
prayed for my sister.
Oh,
A lot of people don't know this, but when I found out mom and dad was expecting, I actually prayed that God would give me a sister. I can go back in my mind to where I was when I was asking and mom and dad asking about it, and that's one of the prayers God answered.
and she is special.
Yes,
There's no
she is.
doubt.
That's my sister right there.
Yes, love her. So what would you say your spiritual significance in Christmas in your younger years? How was that?
Well,
I
you
mean, I
know,
know you've already talked about Ma and Papa Dowlins, which is huge in my life. I'll talk about later, but I mean that was a big deal. You
yeah,
going to have Christmas and doing the nativity scene and
yeah,
acting
yeah.
it out.
Well, I, looking back, going back, that's my favorite Christmas. Looking back is not probably the one that I've mentioned, and you wouldn't really think that it would be one of those moments. I was a very inquisitive child. Let me just say, yeah, and so I spent. And this is I'm just getting real up here. I'm trying to pretend it's like it's just me and you talking, but I know there's other people listening. But I was known to snoop around a little bit, birthdays, Christmas, things like that. And one year in particular, I found my Christmas presents before I actually got them. And
Not because you were snooping around or anything.
yeah, no, nothing like that. But this is actually one. This is one of the things that I found was weightlifting equipment. So when you see all of this, it
Way
started
back
way
when,
back
way back
then,
when, yes.
way back then. And so I can remember um I got like I think it might have been the same year I got a field telescope, and then I got some workout equipment. And I'm thinking, this is cool. Might not have been a brand new skateboard, or might not have been this or that, but I thought it was cool. but everything seemed to be downplayed that year. And I didn't understand why it was just so much on the down low, so to speak. Um, Years later, I found out the true significance of what was going on. And my parents were going through a difficult time financially. And that was back in the days. And I know some of you can attest to this, that um, my parents would panic when I would have people over to the house, because when it came to time to fix a ham sandwich, um, they ration it out per week, and we're inviting somebody new into our home. And so we're having to count the pieces of ham. And then somebody new that's come in used to filling up a sandwich, and we're just getting by with one piece to make it last. Um, it was a Christmas like that. And I found out years later that mom and dad actually bought our Christmas presents that year from a yard sale, from a pawn shop. They did what they could do to make sure that we had the provisions that we needed and still had a special Christmas. They never let us know just exactly how difficult things were. They were always smooth about that. And thankfully, that was a transitional time in our lives. And it's amazing, Jennifer. You mentioned these experiences, and in my mind, I'm going back and I'm seeing them. And you're listening to this, and maybe you chime in on social media. Let us know an experience that you have. Talk about it. Just communicate with us in the comment section. But um, I look back, because you asked about the spiritual significance of it. I look back and um, I think about what God's done for us. Here it was, my parents making great sacrifices so that we could have special gifts. And I'm not trying to just overemphasize the point, but it's obvious. It's right there in front of us that that is exactly what God has done for us. That He made an ultimate sacrifice in giving a costly gift for us so that we could have the best. I don't know that I necessarily deserved it. I felt guilty looking, um, and I may not have been all that appreciative of it when I got it, and that's a hard truth to swallow. But when I think about what God has done for us in Jesus, when Paul writes in 2 Corinthians 9:15 again, and we're talking about the thrill of hope, but when he talks about this, thank God for this gift, too wonderful for words. It's really indescribable. I don't know that I really appreciated what my parents gave me at the moment, but when I look back on it now, it is, why is it that workout equipment that belonged to somebody else is so meaningful to me? And it's because I recognize the story of where it came from.
Exactly.
And I'm so thankful for parents like that, but it also pushes me into my relationship with Jesus, because there's times that I took that gift for granted, and I didn't recognize the sacrifice that it made for him to come here, to leave all that he had. See, my parents weren't rich, um, but Jesus was rich and became poor so that I could have what I have. And
And it's crazy as you're saying that. I remember going back right now into my childhood, and I didn't think of myself as I don't want to say we were poor, but I thought I had everything that I needed, and it was because what my mom and my dad did for me at
yeah,
Christmas. And it shows you that the Father, I mean, he we may not fully understand what we're going through, but in the bigger picture, we know that he loves us so much and he's working it all out for our good.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Even though things are tough and he had to go through the ultimate sacrifice, in the end, it was all for us.
yeah, which is the same thing with a gift. I
Yes,
mean, my parents were doing everything they
exactly.
possibly could do to provide for me and my sister, and we were
You were
oblivious
fine. You had
to
no
everything.
idea that
No,
it was from a
nope,
secondhand shop.
nope,
Or,
nope.
I mean, as a kid, we see something. It's like it's more about I think about a baby like a newborn baby. Whenever he or she sees the Christmas lights, it's overwhelmed by the beauty of the Christmas lights. It's the thrill of the Christmas lights. I remember we're going to talk about the boys later, but just the box was interesting. That was like the best gift ever. The box that the toy came out of, but it's not about. Sometimes it's not about the actual gift. It's a bigger picture.
It,
Does
it
that
is, and that's a parent tip right there. Just save yourself the hassle. When the kids are really really small like that, just wrap up a box and let them go to town.
go to Pinterest and you can
they'll just
decorate the
they'll
box
just
however
really
you want?
you did that one
Oh
year.
yeah, I did. I did. We won't talk about that right now.
Okay, my
We'll talk
bad.
about that one.
And so yeah, and I'm even looking at this graphic. You're talking about the Christmas lights
Mhm.
and just the wonder of all of that.
Yes.
And even though we don't know how it works and what goes on, we can appreciate what we have been given. And so that's
Yes.
that's kind of my reflections on one of the childhood experiences that I had. And so I don't know if you have any more questions for me.
I don't I don't think so. I mean, I would hope that the greatest was me. Your first Christmas with me, but we'll get there later, right?
Yeah. Maybe so, but we appreciate you tuning in
Yes.
for this episode, and we want to hear about some of the experiences that you have, and maybe this quick time together during this busy season. And you know how much I don't like that word, but there's so much that's going on during this season, and for you, the word for tonight is to stop and thank God for the gift that he has given to us. That's too marvelous for words. And as you go through this season, our prayer is that you would think about the sacrifice that he's made for you. You may be oblivious to what that fully means. You may be oblivious to how um, it, to what you have and take for granted. But if you will, just stop and think about his goodness to us all, and the fact that we're so undeserved, but yet he loved us enough that he's willing to do what he's done. Thank you so much for being with us. We pray God's continued blessings upon you, and we hope to be with you again.